Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome tonight to another one of our series of our listening topics. And tonight we are doing it's a community affair. That's what we're going to call it. All right. So we have our guests with us tonight that are going to dazzle our minds with some brilliance, and certainly that's what we're expecting tonight. And with that, I'm going to open up to our candidate, Miss Shannon Campbell, to give us some further direction and some information. So, Miss Campbell.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for that. Basically, tonight we got something that's very, very powerful. I want to make sure all my ladies, everybody are on this Zoom tonight because it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. As you guys know, I'm Shannon Campbell all day, every day. I make sure that I connect myself to the right individuals. I'm about the community, as people who know that. And for those that don't know, you learn more and more about me as I do these Zooms. So basically, let's listen in tonight. I'm someone that's running for office. I don't see myself as a politician. I'm just a people person, you know, and that's why I truly decided to run, because I wanted to continue the positive forward progress in which the city was founded on. I'm someone that's unbought, and I'm very active in the community, and as a part of this community, not just in Miami Gardens, but Miami-Dade County and abroad, to tell you the truth. I'm very active. And I am a member of People Acting for the Community Together, which is PACT. And basically that's 41 congregations and 2 universities that have come together to challenge, our politicians and legislators to do things that impact our communities, whether it's gun violence, affordable housing, working with ex-felons, all the likes. This is what we do. And it's been a great experience for me, and I'm looking forward, as after I win this election, to even bring more to the table, because I'll be on the inside working out as opposed to on the outside trying to work in. So with that being said, as I've spoke about the history of the women and the vote, we see what has transpired. We see what is happening nationally. Joe Biden tonight has picked his VP running mate, which is Miss Kamala Harris. So now, with that being said, ladies, we run the world. No disrespect to my men. I love my men, but it's our time. Basically, I have a young lady here. I have 2 young ladies. We've heard from Dr. Brinson before. She's absolutely amazing. She's going to bring the noise in a moment. But I want to start with this young lady. Her name is Deshaun Jones. And after speaking with her, I was just absolutely amazed, because I work with all likes of people. I fought for ex-felons' rights to be restored. I was a part of that team getting that Amendment 4 passed. And I fought from West Palm Beach on down to West Homestead. So let's be clear here. I'm about that life. So I want to bring Miss Deshaun Jones on. She's someone that's been reformed. And then I'm going to come on after at the end when I close out to share some other information. But Miss Deshaun, you have the floor.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank Dr. Brinson just for throwing my name out there. It's so good to be surrounded by like people and things that are going on right now. I have so much love for Dr. Brinson. I tell her that all the time. So for her to just make a call and say, I need you here, I'm like, yes, I'm there. So today is a big day for me. I've been running around all day, and I don't know if you guys can see, but I voted today. I have my stamp of approval. I voted today. So it was a great experience. I also marched with the the Circle of Brotherhood. We marched from 51st all the way to 54 to the Joseph Kaler Center. And It was my first time voting, and I'll say I had to count 13 years.
Right.
So this was an experience. I needed help, just like I think anyone who's coming out and they're getting out of prison, or who have been reformed, they're going to need help. So I got all the help that I needed when I did go in and vote, and it was joyful. I had so much joy. And one question, I also was interviewed by Miami Hero, and one of the questions he asked me, how did I feel after voting? And I told him I felt liberated. So I really felt liberated, to be able to put my ballot in and vote for my choice of, who I want. And I felt a part of.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a part of, like that's one of the things that, as a child that, I wanted to always feel a part of. I know I shortly told you, some of my story, and we said you wanted me to talk about some more and get into it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna start off. Yeah, I'm gonna start off by saying, um, I am the child of 6 kids. I'm the only girl, and I had a pretty good life. And during that time, I swayed it. I swayed it a different way that I shouldn't have, and addiction came into play in my life. And when addiction falls in, we'll do anything and everything to get one more. So in 2005, I received a charge of a drug trafficking charge, and the charge that I received was, during that time, I was looking at a minimum mandatory 25 years. So I wanted to kind of break down for you what my charge looked like. I was addicted to painkillers, and I had 28 pills on me when I was stopped by the police officer. Didn't know too much, just as naive as I can be. I handed him over the pills, and when I handed it over to him, he asked me, where did I get them from? I told him, had a toothache, I bought it from a friend. Just that simple. And during that time, he arrested me and told me that he was charging me with drug possession. And mind you, I was in Broward County. So I went back to court. I went to jail that night. I was bonded out. It was a $100 bond. I was bonded out, and I went back to court 30 days later. And during those 30 days, I had it all in my mind. Oh, this is not going to be nothing. This is small. They're not going to do anything to me. I had other people whispering in my ear who probably have gotten a possession charge, saying, oh, you'll probably get a couple of weeks of probation, or they'll probably send you to a little program. Nothing. So I walked in the courthouse after 30 days, me and my mom, and the judge called my name, and I came to the front. And at that time, he told me that he had a capious warrant out for me, that they had upped my charges, and my new charges were drug trafficking. So drug trafficking. I had a charge of drug trafficking 28 grams less than 30. No matter what it was 28 grams less than 30, and that fit up under the Ronald Reagan law, which was minimum mandatory 25 years.
Wow.
So I fell up under that law, and I spent 11 months in jail trying to fight, and I hired an attorney, and he said that he did the best for me. And when I walked out 11 months later, I received 10 years probation. So during that time that I was in jail, I also hadn't even got any help for my addiction. I really didn't discuss it. It really did not come up. No one came to me and said, what were you doing with these pills? The only thing my attorney only wanted to talk about is, how can we get you out of here? And no judge, I didn't know anything about treatment at that time. I didn't know anything about getting some help. I didn't know anything about NA. I was naive to everything. So me being naive, I end up taking a plea, and that plea adjudicated me guilty. If I would have known what I know now, the plea adjudicated me guilty, meaning I took on to say that I'm guilty if I take this plea, and it gave me 10 years probation. And the only thing I knew is I didn't want 25 years, and they kept telling me that's what I was going to get. And I was up under the minimum mandatory. So I got out, and at that time I still didn't understand anything about addiction. I got out and I used. I used. And this time part of using was to numb everything that had happened and that had gone on around me. I had no coping skills. I felt less than, and now I had a charge that I felt that I could never get a job for again, and I was just lost. So for between the first 5 years of probation, I kind of just slided on through. I had a pretty good probation officer. I can't say pretty good if he was good for me, but for 5 years I still used, but he never tested me for pills. And he knew that I was using. And he just told me the last week that he was there is, listen, this is my last week here. You're going to get a new probation officer. So whatever you need to do, you need to clean up, and they will be testing you. And they probably will be testing you for what you are using, your drug of choice. And I went back the next month to see my probation officer, and I did have a new probation officer. And just what he said, she tested me, and I was positive. And I had enough time to say that month to say, okay, clean up, but it's not that easy.
Right.
It wasn't at all. I'm in the grips of my addiction. I am not thinking the way I should be thinking. I'm unmanageable at the time of everything. Everything in my life is unmanageable. And I am not thinking about consequences. As much as those 25 years scared me, they scared me and they didn't scare me, but seemed like addiction overpowered that, just truly overpowered that. After she got in and my probation officer, I received a new probation officer. I violated probation. They took me back to jail, and I went to a new judge, and this judge said, she has a drug problem. Let's get her some treatment. So that's 5 years after receiving my charge. And I finally got treatment, and I went to a great place. Like, it was raw. It was the village. It was, they told me about coping skills. They taught me about coping skills. They taught me about, trauma that I had, experienced in the past. I had therapy, some underlying issues that I just never wanted to deal with. They taught me all these things, and, I had some tools, and I successfully completed treatment. I did 90 days. I also did another 90 days of outpatient, and I was truly convinced that I was finished and that I was tired. But it was something in the back of my mind, again, that that led me right back. One night partying with some friends. So it's as many tools as they gave me, and they tell you all the time you have to change everything, friends, everywhere you go, people, places, and things. I still hadn't changed people. So but I was able to find a place that I knew where to get help from. I knew about NA. I knew about a program, and I knew that there was somewhere for me to get help. And right then, I remember running back to go to treatment, and they wouldn't accept me because I was up under Broward's probation. So they sent me to another treatment center in Broward. And I went to treatment center in Broward, and during that time, I messed up again. All of this spewed from, just addiction and not wanting to, face some of the things that was going on with me, not wanting to address, some issues that was going on. But I still was learning, I still was getting more tools. I still was, listening, you know, and I always said that, I know there's somewhere for me to go, if something happens. So in that treatment center, I remember the judge telling me, so I was like probably at my 6th or 7th year on probation, and I would go see the judge once a month, and he would do an update on me, and they gave him a bad report on me, and he told him, if you come back here, I'm giving you those 25 years. You violate again, I'm giving you those 25 years. 2 weeks later, I deviated and went somewhere that I wasn't supposed to. And when I got back to the treatment center, they arrested me. And I was like, oh my God, they're getting ready to give me 25 years. I was like, oh my gosh. And I went back to court, and that was just a hearing, because they told them it was a hearing for probation status, that I was back. The judge looked at me and he told me, listen, I told you I'm going to give you 25 years. I went back to the Broward County Jail inside the cell, and just remember sitting there counting on my fingers how old my daughter will be, after 25 years. I remember feeling like, oh, she's going to hate me. Like 25 years, she'll be like 30 something, and I'll really have been absent, really. No way to make this up. No way to make up anything with her. I have one child, and I thank my grandmother. I thank her father. They were everything. And so they told me, okay, you're going to go back to court in 30 days. My family hired another attorney for me. And that was another thing. I was thankful for having family members who supported me. Didn't like what I was doing, but they supported me. And I'm just so thankful for that. So I go back into court 30 days later and find out that I have a new judge. This is God sent. I have a new judge. And not only do I have a new judge, this judge is not from Broward County, he's from Dade County. And not only is he from Dade County, he's a drug court judge from Dade County. He understands what I am going through.
Yeah.
So all of this that's going on, I was in treatment and I didn't relapse, and I had 90 days in treatment. I deviated, and he asked me, did you relapse? I told him no, but I deviated. He said, well, that probably would have led to you using. He looked at all of my information, and he says, Deshaun, he says, I'm looking at everything. You have fines that are almost $100,000. My bond was $500,000 that day when they arrested me, $500,000.
Wow.
And he looked at me, he said, you will never be able to pay these fines. You will never. And what they want to do, what probation wants to do, is give you 10 more years of probation if we reinstate it. And I'm like, I don't want to reinstate probation. And he goes, I have a good plan. This is what I'm going to do. It may not sound good to you, but it's a great plan. And I asked him, what is it? He says, I'm going to send you to prison for a year. We have a new amendment on this law. This law no longer is a minimum mandatory 25 years. The new law now is 3 years. With all the time that you have served and all the time that you have had in treatment, I'm going to give you all that time. And once I tally everything up, it's going to be at least a year and a month that you will have been there. And the judge secretary had been seeing me since 2005. She was still the same secretary that once I received my charge. And she walked over to me and tallied up all my days and all the times I had been in. And she looked over at me and she was like, I'm going to give you some extra days. So you probably won't even do nothing but 9 months. She says, you think you're ready to get things right? She had been in the courtroom since 2005, since I received my charge, and it was 7 years later. And I told her, yes, I'm ready. I'm really ready. And I hadn't really thought about it, that I was going in for a year. And I was like, I went back to my dorm and I'm like, a year, I'm going to prison. What is he talking about? That this is going to be a good plan? Going to prison is not a good plan.
Right.
Yeah, but it was like a double-edged sword, like I was going to benefit from this. And
Yeah.
I wasn't going to have to do 10 more years of probation. I wasn't going to have to pay all these fines. And how I looked at it is I was getting ready to have a year with me, myself, and I, and the God of my understanding. And that's just what it was. It was, some time that I needed just by myself and God.
Yeah.
I was going to a prison with all these women, and all this chaos. It really wasn't like that. It really wasn't. It gave me a timeout. It gave me like that daily reprieve, but it gave me like a year reprieve, that I was able to just, concentrate on me and get who I needed to be, and just clean up my whole spirit. So February 28th, 2013, I am in the county jail. I am called at 3 o'clock in the morning and I am shackled down. I still remember that day. It brings tears to my eyes because I remember being, so just being shackled, for them to put shackles on me. And I felt like a caged animal. I felt degrading. I felt embarrassed. All those feelings came, and I kept telling myself, I will never let this happen to me again. I will never let this happen to me again. And I remember pulling up at the prison, and it is the big prison. It's called Lowell. It's the biggest women's prison in the state of Florida. I remember pulling up there and seeing the barbed wires, and they had to we had to wait 15 minutes before we even went into the prison because the people from death row was moving to another unit. And I was like, what? I'm at the prison where the death row people are at? And I was like, what is this? And I knew it was serious. It was so serious.
Right.
And I was in Ocala in a women's prison. And, I remember walking in and I remember them spraying me down, just the whole feeling of being degraded. I still can't get over that feeling sometimes, it still gets to me. February comes around and it gives me chills,
Right.
but it also gives me encouraged, I get more encouraged too. Like, girl, you're never going to get yourself put back in that situation. Well, we're never going to go through that again. I have to self-talk myself like that is never going to happen. So, I go into the prison. I do what I need to do. I know I have 1 year and I know I am not with the nonsense. I know I want to stay clean. I know I don't want to use again. And what I realize is my addiction probably didn't carry me into some other places that I had never been, but my addiction just brought me to prison. So my disease was serious.
Yeah.
It was very serious. I am in prison,
Right.
and it tells us, jail's institution or death. And, I was in 2 of those. I had been to jail already and I was in an institution, and I know I didn't want to die. I just knew that I didn't want to die. So something had to change inside of me. So I get to prison. I start doing some work on myself. I really do. I start going to NA meetings. I start going to AA meetings. I start going to church.
Yeah.
I start to talk to my higher power. I don't have all the distraction that I have around me anymore. It's pretty easy for me to go in a place and kind of you know, make my way through and kind of fit in, but, you know, just leave everybody. I didn't really have to say much to anyone. You know, it wasn't as bad as everyone make it to be. These were women who were hurting, who needed help just as well. You had
Yeah.
you had some bad girls that either you go on that side and deal with the bad girls, and then you had some good girls who, you know, 9 times out of 10, I heard a lot of women's stories, and a lot of them was in there due to drugs, men, and, you know, just some bad decisions, you know, like bad
Right.
decisions. But, you know, a lot of them was in there due to drugs and a man, you know, and just their low self-esteem of following a man in the midst of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I began to read. I began to you know, write, and I received all the knowledge that I could. I just received everything. And, you know, whatever positive was going on there, I was in it.
Good.
Whatever they had going on that was so positive, I was there. I was up at 8 o'clock in the morning for revivals. I was out at 6 o'clock if I had to get a pass, special pass to go to this function for an NA meeting. I got my pass signed. I was at the library. You know, I was always doing something positive for that year that I
Good.
was there. And I did what I had to do. You know, I know I didn't want to come home and be the same person. And I know I wanted to work on myself. And at the end, after hearing all these women's stories that I had became friends with, that I slept next to, that, you know, you, that I felt that they deserved a second chance just as well as I did. You know, women who were doing 25 years for nonviolent crimes, the same crime that I did, and
Yeah.
she has 25 years. I slept next to a young lady who had 25 years for the same crime. You
Wow.
know, I felt like, thank you, Lord,
Yeah.
thank you. You spared, you know, me. Thank you. And what I wanted to do was just like, I want to get out and help these women. Like, you had women who asked me, can you have your grandmother make a call for me? Because I haven't heard from my mom in like 8 months, and I don't know what's going on with my family. And I had this thing. My grandmother was making calls for every woman that I know. I would get numbers, and I was like, Granny, call her mom and make sure she's okay. Or if I get my brother on the phone, call her dad and see if he's okay. So I was already like trying to help out as much as possible while I
Yeah.
was there. And during that time, I went to work release, and I decided not to come home to do work release because I knew if I came home, I had to, you know, some work on myself, but I wasn't strong enough to probably come home at the time and probably be standing on the bus stop trying to go to work, and someone may pass by and say, you need a ride, and I say, yeah. So I made
Oh.
a decision, right, and that gives you an escape charge of 7 years, and here I am with probably 5 more months left. And
Right.
so I went to Orlando, and I decided to go to Orlando. And when I went to Orlando, it was a great decision. I went to work release. I got up every morning. I walked 3 miles. I caught the bus. So that transition, during that time, that transition humbled me. That's where all my, you know, humility came in at. When I say I was humbled,
Yeah.
I was so humbled. I mean, right there, you know, was that aha moment where I transitioned into, you know, all that entitlement that I had, all that, you know, just everything that the disease, all that manipulation, you know, just had to go away. And I got humble.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I caught the bus every day, and I was on time every day. And I just wanted to do what they told me to do. And
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna buck anything. I was gonna pay attention because I knew the way that I thought was not working. What I was doing in the past was not working. I needed to, you know, someone needed to help guide me. And if
That's it.
the officer said you need to be back at this time, I did not question it. If the officer said you cannot work there, I did not question it. The officer says you cannot talk to anyone on the bus, I did not question it. I sat right there and I did not talk to anyone. And
Yeah.
I,
Fast forward. Tell them how when you shifted, when everything shifted
so
for you.
I go to work release, and once I go to work release, I am Working at a restaurant called Payway. I am in the back because I can't work in the front because I'm still on probation, and I'm on really considered Department of Correction inmate. So I worked in the back, and I was a prep. And once work release was getting ready to end, the manager asked me, he says, "You've been working so hard. Would you want a job in Miami when you go back?" I say, "Yes." He was like, "I'm going to transfer you to Miami. I'll give a recommendation for you to be transferred." So that meant when I came home, I was going to have a job. So I got back and I started working right here in Pembroke Pines at Payway. And within less than 6 months, I was their shift manager. And I became their shift manager, and I did that for another like year. And after that, I was doing meetings every day. I got back with all of my NA family, and I met back up with some of my phenomenal friends. And the advice that they had gave me, I was just taking every bit of advice that I could. And I also, after 3-4 months of being home, I went and took the real estate class. I had never completed anything. It had been so long that I had completed anything. Probably childbirth was the last thing that I completed, and that was inevitable. You're gonna complete that. You're gonna finish off with that. And I went and took the real estate and class, and I passed the test. And I
Yeah.
remember receiving my grade for the test, and I scored an 80. And I sat in the parking lot and cried. And I cried and I cried because I hadn't completed nothing in a long time. Knowing that I was a convicted felon, I had to wait 3 more years in order to get my license because I had just came home. But I passed the class, I passed the test, and that test was very hard. I've seen a lot of my classmates not passing.
Right.
And I decided to keep my certificate. I'm gonna keep my certificate. I passed, and I can take the states within the next 3 to 4 years. Once the conviction is kind of lowered, and I decided to start working in treatment. And I found a niche in it, and I loved it. I found my purpose working in treatment. I found a working in detox and working around people who had the same problem that I used to have. And I was like one of the best techs that they have, that I became the lead tech. So, like everywhere I went, I seen the leadership in me,
Yep.
and not only did I see it, they seen it. And they seen it faster than what I seen it. I always knew I had it, but it was very easy for my employers to see it too. And I was so grateful for that. So I worked for treatment for a while. After treatment and detox, I decided that I wanted to. I end up going into the mental health field where I'm at right now, and I truly love that and social work. And I'm currently back in school for social work. So this was my summer B. I had all my friends telling me it's time to go back. But the good thing about it is I surround myself around women who
Yeah. Yeah.
who have gone back to school, who have their master's degrees, who have their bachelor's. Like all of my girlfriends are therapists. All of my friends are within the social work field, and they're always pushing me. So this was the time so I registered back for school. I stopped for a little while because I became a full-time caretaker. And during the pandemic, my grandmother, she is now living in a home, and they're taking very good care of her. I'm so thankful. So that kind of cleared my plate from a lot of things. And now I'm back in school. Next week is my last week, and I've completed
Right.
summer B, and I am registering for the fall tomorrow. And I did pretty well in my classes. I had my math and my psychology class, and I started off and it was hard, but I stayed consistent, and it was a 6-week class. These classes were 6 weeks, so everything was bunched up together. So I worked and went to school, and all of this has come about, just staying steadfast, I guess, and surrounding myself around great people.
That's it.
you know, just surrounding myself around great people. And I'm so thankful for the people I surround myself around. You know, I'm grateful for them every day. You know, I just had a friend to go out and vote with me. And it was a great experience. It was such a great experience for me to go out and vote. And for the
Yeah.
first time in 13 years, you know.
Awesome. Awesome.
So, you know.
So kind of talk about where you are headed because of your experience. What is give us a little quick 30-second hit.
Okay.
Where you're headed and what you're trying to do, because then I want to shift now to mental health with Dr. Brinson.
Okay, so I have formed a movement, and it started with the voting rights, and it is She's Been Reformed. I am in the midst of getting all of that organized. I kind of wanted to just start with women voting, you know, with women that I have been in prison with. And I even when they passed Amendment 4, I was texting them and saying, did you get your votes, your rights back? Did you get your rights back? Did you get your rights back? And I'm like, I need to start encouraging these women to get their rights back, because some of them was like, I don't need my rights back. And I'm like, yes, you do. So I helped a few of my friends to get their rights back. And I also have helped a lot of my girlfriends who I was in prison with, who are out now, but during the time they were in and work release, I made sure that they probably had panties, they had bras. Women don't have all those necessities that they need. Women, if you go to work release and you don't have family, you don't have anyone to send money to you to get ID to even start working. You know, you are sent to work release, and then the first thing they ask is, if you go to work release, so you're not working yet, you need ID, and you need your social security card. Do you have money in your account? And then sometimes women be like, no, I don't have any money. I don't have family. And, you know, so that stops them from going to work release. And I think work release is such a big stepping stone when you're coming home. You get a job, you know, and I just want to be able to help women who are in that middle state. You know, they're in that time, or they're transitioning over from prison to work release to home. Even when they come home, you know, it's a lot of things.
Mr. Sean, give them your contact number, and put it in the chat too.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
So She's Been Reformed, and I will put my email address in the chat. And I also have a Facebook page, She's Been Reformed. You can go right to it. And I also have a link where if you haven't registered to vote, you can register to vote. I also have a prompt on there where you can donate if you want to donate, you know, to my organization for women getting out of prison, even if it's for IDs, you know, just like a starter kit, you know, those things that they need help with. So I'm going to put everything inside the chat. I would love for you guys to reach out to me and get more information. And just to plug it in, I will be in the Miami Herald tomorrow.
All right.
Yes. So, and I think Channel 10 News also filmed me. So look out for me tonight, and tomorrow morning I'll be in the Miami Herald talking about She's Been Reformed.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen on the Zoom, I thank you for your patience. You know, this is what it's about at the end of the day, helping people. You know, information is the fuel for transformation. You got to have the information. Also, the voting piece is very important. As you see, the judges, we are voting for a lot of judges in this election as well. We got to pay attention, research them, see how they have helped the people. Now, take an example of Ms. Deshaun, her experience, and when she was with one area in Broward, then she came to Dade, and her situation shifted immediately because of a judge that really looked at her and looked at her as a human being and said, we got to get her some help and get her moving in the right direction. All people don't do that. So let's make sure we're researching those judges and we voting in the right judges that are truly for our people. Now, and it takes a village. You know, we are a village, and together we can accomplish great things. And that's what it was. She built her network, as you see, and I'm about that. You can't do it alone. So with that being said, and she mentioned about the mental health. It's an issue, and we try to run from that right now. It's reality. So I have Dr. Brinson, who's going to give us some quick conversation about the mental health and what she brings to the table, and she'll give you her information where she can be reached, and then we'll take a couple of questions from our listeners, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Dr. Brinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. I just want to again acknowledge Deshaun for having the courage to come forward and
Absolutely
using her testimony to help other women. As soon as she told me what she was doing, I'm like, I gotta jump on this, because, you know, we work with a lot of women who haven't had their rights restored, and they need it. They have a voice. In 2020, it's more important than any other time in our lives. So,
Absolutely.
again, Deshaun, thank you so much for sharing your story. Just want to quickly remind people about Psyched Solutions. Again, I'm Dr. Brinson. I'm a licensed psychologist and a pediatric cannabis consultant. Our agency is located in Miami Gardens, 18425 Northwest 2nd Avenue, which is right across the street from Tootsie's. I have to say that.
I know, me too. Right across the street from Bank of America.
Oh, okay, Bank of America.
Hello.
And to kind of piggyback on what Deshaun was saying, we offer DUI individual sessions and group sessions. We also offer life coaching. And again, now more than ever, it's time for us to get our mental health in check. It's so important. Our people are struggling, and they're struggling unnecessarily. Okay, we're getting ready to, not only are we voting, we're getting ready to send our kids back to social distance schooling or whatever it is that we're doing now, but we're going to do this thing. So parents, again, if your child is struggling academically, behaviorally, reach out to us. There are tons of kids that were having academic issues last year, and they still have not been tested for the school year that's coming up next week or this month. So if you suspect that your child has a learning problem, ADHD, autism, reach out to us. Our number is 954-257-7473. I'm on all the social media platforms under Psyched Solutions. And if you have Medicaid, all of your services are free. That includes DUI, that includes individual counseling, that includes psychological evaluations. We are here to help. And again, Shannon, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this platform.
Thank you. Now, make sure you put that in the chat so our tuned in guests can get that information.
Yes.
But ladies and gentlemen, if we have a couple of questions, did anybody type questions in, Mr. Williams, that we can address?
No, they did not. They only asked for that everybody put the information in the chat box so that we can get it. And as of yet, I don't have any of that information. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, please put it in the chat box. And since we don't have anybody in the chat box yet, are there any questions that you have? Certainly you can. Thank you, Doc. I see your information. You were quick. All right. You can unmute yourself if you have a question that you wanted to ask either Ms. Jones or Dr. Brinson or Shannon as well. So I will let you unmute yourself if you want to. Okay. So having said that, good evening, Mr. Ellis, Ms. Tabitha, Ruth's iPad. I don't know who that is, but I love it that you show up every time. Tanya, Shawnee Sumter, Marjorie Herrera, Joseph Cray, Tracy Butler, and a phone number started with 786. Thank you all for being with us tonight. It's certainly a blessing. As the information is being shared with you, please take it a little bit further than you got it so that we can extend that knowledge just a little bit wider and a little bit deeper. Ms. Jones, thank you so much for your story. It was, man, you know what? You know, we have to man up every now and then, but you know, that was a sensitive story, and I appreciate it. So, Dr. Brinson laughing at me. I'm gonna tell your husband. So, we're gonna turn this over to Shannon so she can give us a little bit of pep talk about why voting is so important, and voting for the right person is the right thing. So, Shannon, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and I'm gonna switch my background while you're coming on.
All right, all right. Well, again, I just want to emphasize the importance of this election. I mean, all elections are important, but this 2020 is critical. If we don't get out and vote and shift in this election, we will be in a crisis. This time is our time, and we got to make this thing right, but we can only do that by getting out and voting. Like I say, do your homework. Don't let people convince you or try to buy you, because I'm unbought. Don't let people try to come at you with this and that. Do your own research and find out about these candidates and get the right information, get the facts. That's important. Now, moving forward, you know, I want everybody to understand, look at what's around us right now. It's the time for the ladies. No offense, my men, but it's the time. Because if you look at the history, I always talk about the history. That's the educated me. Look at the history. Over 100 years ago, women earned their right to vote, okay? And then August 18 in 1919, it was introduced to us. I'm sorry, in 1920, it was introduced to us by ratification. Now here we are, August 18, 2020. What are the odds of that? Because it's in his time when it's supposed to happen. And it is in God's time that this is going to happen. So I claim victory for the City of Miami Gardens Council seat number 1. Right. You guys can reach out to me, 305-793-9038. And you can visit my website, scampbell2020.com. And I'm affiliated, I'm a mentor with an organization called Young Brilliant Minds. And we're going to be doing a back to school, you know, initiative where we're trying to do a fundraiser where we're going to use a portion of our proceeds to help Mr. Deshaun get going with trying to fund those ex-felons, because we know about the Amendment 4. Now, our current legislation, we saw the monkey wrench they put in this. Yep. They gave them the rights back. We voted as a people to get the rights back, and it was a done deal. Then they want to come with the trickery, hear me, trickery, and say, oh, they got to pay these fines. Now, we got to help these young women and young men out. That's why we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're not just talking about it. We're not walking the walk. We're talking the talk. We're doing all of that. We need your support. So we'll be sending out some more information probably around the end of this month or early September. Young Brilliant Minds will be doing a fundraiser back to school with some of our gear and apparel, and portions of those proceeds will go to restoring and helping those ex-felons pay those fees. So with that being said, I'm your girl, Shannon Campbell. I am the best candidate for the City of Miami Gardens Council seat number 1. And I ask that you vote for me and you speak it in the name of Jesus. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Shannon.
And good night.
Good night. Thank you so much. I'll be contacting you.
Thank you all once again. And certainly, Ms. Jones getting the right to vote, or actually to vote in this new normal that we're in, is a blessing.
Yes,
so
it is.
Yes.
God has placed you at a
Definitely
place in such a time as this for what you're about to embark upon. And I will actually get with you and Shannon to see what we can do to help as well.
Thank you so much, guys.
With that being said, Dr. Brinson, you had something to say?
Yeah, you can get with me too now. Don't
always get. I will be there.
Discussion. Look, black female psychologist right here.
That's right.
Take me out.
Well, all right, then. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a wonderful night. God bless you. Stay
too.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.